Assalamu alaikum students, this is Farwa Batul, your O-level computer science instructor, and welcome to another video for chapter number 8 programming. We have started the topic of totaling and counting, and we did exercise 8.7 using Python as my programming language. So if you are interested in the topic and you want to see how you do totaling and counting using Python, so go ahead and see the previous video. In this video, I will be explaining you this topic using Visual Basic. Yes, I will tell you the syntax of Visual Basic in order to implement totaling and counting. Okay, let's move into the topic. First of all, let me explain you with an example that what is totaling and counting. Okay, let's suppose you went to a shop where you are going to buy some items. You have a cart with you and you have to purchase some items. Now, there are two things. When you go to the billing area, then you will be having a bill. In the bill, it is written number of items, name of item, and the third thing is the price. So, that is the difference between totaling and counting. In totaling, what will happen? Let's suppose I bought an item that is milk. So here it will be one milk and it has a price of $200. Let's just assume it. Definitely it's not. Then it bought another item that was a pack of eggs, my second item, and it is, let's suppose, $30. And let's just write down the name. We bought egg, we bought milk. Then another, let's suppose we bought 1 dozen apples, fruits, and it is my third item. So it can be my fruits, that is 1 dozen, and it has $70. So now what to do? What is basically the method of counting? In the method of counting, you are actually counting the number of items that you purchase. So in the number of items, you can see that 1, 2, 3. You purchase 3 items. And what is the method of counting? The method of counting is when you are adding up all of these prices in order to get the total price. So this is where the totaling comes in. Totaling means that you have the price of individual items and then you have to calculate all of these price. Let's suppose it becomes 200, 230, and then $300. So this is a difference between totaling and counting. Here we counted the number of items, count, and here we did the totaling. Now, I hope that things are clear to you. Now, what I can do, I can just tell you that what is the syntax for totaling and counting if you use Visual Basic as your programming language. So, in Visual Basic, when you talk about counting, counting means that you are incrementing a variable. You are adding one into every time into your list. One item, two item, three item, four item, fifth item. So in this way, every time you have to add +1 into your previous value in order to count. It is just like a counter that we are using in our loops for iterations. So the counter value is when it is incremented by 1. So what is going to be the formula for this when your variable must be incremented by 1? It will be, let's suppose the variable is counter. It will be counter equals to counter +1. What this formula is actually going to do? This formula will add +1 into the value of the counter. So let's suppose you put the counter value 0 in the beginning. You set it to 0. So whenever this statement will run, If it runs 5 times, so the counter will be incremented till 5. If it runs one time only, so it is like that. 0 plus 1 equals 1. The good thing about this is you are incrementing the value of the same variable. That's why the updated value will be stored inside the same variable. So it becomes 1. Next, for the second iteration, it becomes not 0. This time, you know that the value of counter was incremented to 1. So for the second time, it becomes 1 plus 1, that is 2. And then 2 plus 1, that is 3. This is how it actually works. Every time when this this formula will run inside your loop, then the counter value will be incremented by 1, or 1 will be added to its previous value. So in this way, a counter basically runs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. This is a fixed formula, and you can apply it on number of items as well. Just write down, let me just change the variable name here, and sorry for this. Let me delete this. Okay. What we can do for number of items, I just change the variable name from counter to number of items. So it becomes number of items equals number of items plus 1. So what will happen? Whenever you will add another item into your basket, the number of items will be updated and 1 will be added to its previous value. So that is how the counting is actually done. Now, you can also write the same thing as number of items plus equals 1. These both line of code are same. It is going to do the same work. It is going to increment the value of number of items by 1 and then putting the updated value into the same variable. Okay, I hope that counting is clear. This is the syntax in Visual Basic. Now moving towards totaling. Totaling is, let's just see the same example. There is price, that is the individual price of different items. Item 1, item 2, item 3. So it has a price. Every item has a price. And in order to do the totaling, you must have a variable that is named as total price. So for this, the syntax for Visual Basic becomes total price equals total price plus price. Okay, how it actually works. Keep in mind that total price is going to be the final result of the sum of all of the individual prices. And this price variable is going to hold the price of individual items for each iteration. So let's suppose the milk was $200 and the total price was set to 0 in the beginning. Total price was 0 when you just started your shopping. So for the first time when you added milk into your list, it becomes 0 plus 200. And then the value is saved into, remember that, into total price. So here in the memory total price changed to 200. Now for the next iteration, I hope you know the iterations. If you don't know the iteration, go ahead and see the iteration videos. I made all of those loop structures in Visual Basic as well that you can use for iterations. Now in the second one, total price is updated to 200 and the price for the next item that I purchased was let's suppose $30. So now 30 is the individual price. For item 2, 200 plus 30 becomes 230. So 230 will be added into your total price. Next, what is done in the third item? Now 230 is your total price. You purchase the third item for $70. That is your price value, individual price. It is added into 230 and becomes 300, which is stored again into total price. Because look at your formula. On your left hand side, you have mentioned total price as your variable. So the final result will always be stored in total price variable. So 300 is your final result. That is the sum of the individual prices of the items. So in this way, we are doing totaling. I hope that it is clear to you. This is the formula for totaling that we use in Visual Basic. Now things will be more clear to you when we will do activity 8.7. So let me quickly move towards it. Okay, so look at this. Activity 8.7 in the high level programming language that your school has chosen to use. Write and run a short program using a condition control loop to allow the user to input the weight of sack of rice and to count the number of sacks the user has input. When the user types -1, this should stop the process and the program should then output number of sacks entered and the total weight. Now look at this. It is an activity in which you have sack of rice of different weights. You don't know how many sack of rice you actually have. Only the user must enter the value. Now what will happen? There is a weight for the sack of rice that must be entered by the user every time. And what you have to do, the user keep on adding the weight for the different sack of rice. Let's suppose for sack 1 it is 30 kgs. For sack of rice 2 it is 20 kgs. For sack of rice 3 it is 50 kgs, like that. So what will happen? The user will continuously add the weight and it will be stored in the weight variable. By the end of the program, what you actually do, you have to tell two things to the user. What is your output? In the output, you must tell that what is your total weight, that what we assumed is 30, 20, 50. So it must be 100 kgs, that is your total weight. And next, you must tell the user that how many number of sack of rice you have entered. So for us, it is 3 for this particular condition. It can be 3, it can be more than 3. Your program needs to be scalable. Now, I hope that you know that what actually we need to do. Now, what is the thing that stops the process? The process will only be stopped when the user puts -1 into weight. If it gives -1 value to the weight, then we will stop counting and we will show the result. So this is something that is the condition for the termination of your loop. Condition to terminate the loop that you are using. As the activity says that you have to use a condition control loop. So let me quickly tell you in Visual Basic, if you are talking about a condition control loop, then you have two options. First, you have a precondition loop in which you must check the condition before running the code. In a preconditioned loop, we are using while loop. And next is your post condition loop. In a post condition loop, we use do while. So, now do while is in Java and do until is in VB. So for this particular activity, what I will be choosing a precondition loop, that is my while loop, to solve this problem. So let me quickly tell you the syntax that works for this activity. Let's start. In the beginning, what you have to do, you have to initialize with 3 variables. So write down dim, that is for dimension. The first variable we need to use is total weight. Total weight is a variable that is going to save the total weight value of the different sack of rice. It must be integer, and let's initialize it by 0. Now the next thing is the individual weight, that can be written as weight. It is also an integer value. Let's make it integer data type and put a value 0 into it. The third variable must be number of sacks, that is going to store the number of sacks that the user enters. It is also an integer value, and put a value 0 into it in the beginning. Now the next thing is write down an input statement, an output statement, console.writeLine in VB, in order to tell the user what to enter. So we will tell the user, please enter weight of sack of rice. This is my display message that is going to help the user to enter the weight. Next, what you have to do, you have to store the user input into the variable named as weight, because weight is going to store the individual weight of the sack of rice. Weight equals, we must do data parsing here because the input is a string value. We need to convert it into integer value. So it is integer dot parse, and inside the round bracket, write down your input statement, that is console.readLine in Visual Basic. So it is read line, then your brackets, and that's it. So these two statements are to take the input for the first sack of rice. Now let's start with my while condition, while loop. Remember that why are you taking the first input outside your while loop? Because let's suppose there is no sack of rice. Let's suppose the weight the user enters is -1 for the first time. Then there is no need to calculate for total weight and for the number of sack, because there is no sack. So that's why for the first time I will take input outside the loop, and then once the user will start entering the weight, then it will go inside the loop for the calculation of total weight and number of sack. Now let's begin with our while loop. The condition here must be true in order to do the iterations. So the iterations will only work when the weight value is not equal to -1. So we will keep it weight is not equal to -1. That's a syntax for comparing the value in the variable with -1. It says that when weight is not equal to -1, then do the following. Why? Because in order to run the iterations inside, this condition needs to be true. And this will only be true if your weight value is not -1. When the user enters -1, then you will do no more calculations. You will just terminate your loop. But before that, whatever the weights that are being added instead of -1 are being computed. Now, inside the loop, what you will be doing? First thing, you must write down the totaling, that is total weight equals total weight plus weight. This is the syntax for totaling, the method of totaling. It actually works. I already explained you with example that the weight of your sack of rice will be here. It will start with 0 and whatever the answer is, it will be stored in total weight. Now, we will also dry run this program in order to make it clear to you that how it actually works. Okay, the next thing you have to do inside the loop is you have to increment the number of sack of rice. So, it is number of sacks plus equals 1. That is your increment statement. Because remember that you are only entering into the loop when you have a weight for a sack of rice. So if you are entering a weight of a sack of rice, it means that one sack of rice is being added. So that's why every time you have to increment your sack of rice when you are going inside the loop. Now the next thing is you have to take the input again for the second sack of rice, for the third, for the fourth, and so on. So we just simply write it here as, we will just copy these two statements here. Oh, sorry for this, we need to copy. So what I will do, I will just select them. I will choose copy and then I will put here my mouse. I'll paste it. It is being pasted. Let's just drag it here. Why I am adding these statements inside my loop? Because remember that the user will add more than one sack of rice. So in order to help him to add more sack of rice, we need to enter these statements into the loop. Now, the next thing is you have to just end your while loop by writing down end while. Let me write it with a red marker. End while. So that is the end of your loop. Now the next important thing is your output statements. So in Visual Basic, it will be console.writeLine to show the output to the user. And inside that, what you will be doing, you just mention that what is your output. So the first output will be total weight of all sack of rice. This is what you have to show, and this is being stored in the variable total weight. So let's mention that outside the quotations so that its value will be printed. Next, you have to enter another output to be printed on screen, and that is the number of sack. So let me write it here. Number of sack of rice. And that must be stored in your variable number of sacks. Okay, this is the whole program. Now what I will be doing for you, I will just do it Just I will give an example and show you the results. Okay. The first thing here is you are having, let's just quickly dry run the program in order to explain you everything. So for the first time, what will happen? When you will run these three statements, dim, dim, dim. Here in the memory somewhere, let's suppose this is my memory, three different variables will be created. The first one is the total weight that has a value 0 in it. Next is your weight variable that is initialized with 0 again. And number of sacks is your third variable that is also initialized by 0. So that is what will happen in the memory. All of these variables will allocate a particular space and will be given the value 0, 0, 0. Next, in the next statement, there will be a display message on the screen. Let's suppose this is your output. So the first thing that the user is going to see is, please enter weight of sack of rice. So it will be, please enter weight for of sack of rice. So what will happen here? Let's suppose I enter, let me just assume that I have 3 sack of rice that I must enter. First one with 20 kg, then 30 kg, then 50 kg. So first I write 20. What will happen? This 20 will be stored in the weight variable as an integer value. So you can check in the memory that here you will see 20. That's the updated value for weight. That's the individual weight of the sack of rice. Now let's move towards the while loop. Remember that I have written the input statement outside the while loop because let's suppose it is not 20, it is minus 1 for the first time. So it means that if the user writes minus 1, then there is no need for calculation. It simply means that there is no sack of rice available. So that's why I am taking the weight outside the loop for the first time. Now, in our case, we have 3 sack of rice, so 20 is my first value for the weight. Now, inside the loop, when you go, you must check for the condition. According to the weight condition, weight not equals to minus 1. The weight value here is 20. That is not equal to minus 1. So it means the weight is true here. So if the condition is true, you are going inside to run all of these line of codes. So the first line of code, we will calculate total weight as total weight is 0 plus 20 is your weight value. 0 plus 20 becomes 20. So 20 is the updated value for the total weight variable. You will save 20 in total weight as calculated. Next, number of sack is incremented to 1. So now the value becomes 1 in the memory for the number of sacks as it is an increment statement. Next, again, once you are done with this, you will again see the same message on the output in order to take the weight for the second sack of rice. So again, you will see the same thing, enter, please enter weight of sack of rice because we never know that how many sack of rice the user must enter. So it will see the same message again, and this time let's suppose we enter 30. So what will happen here? 30 in the next statement, that is your output statement, will be saved. Next statement is your input statement. So 30 will be the new value for weight here. So see the memory. In the memory, the next weight value is 30 for the second sack of rice that is being stored. Now for the second iteration, you have to check for the condition. When you will check the condition, weight is equal to 30 here. So the condition says weight not equals to -1. It becomes true. When the condition becomes true, since weight value is 30 not -1, you will go inside the loop. And when you will run the formula for total weight, it is now 30, sorry, total weight was 20 plus weight value is 30 now. 20 plus 30 becomes 50 for the second iteration. Number of sec will be incremented to 2. So let's do the changes. Total weight and number of sec. It is 50 now. As per our calculation, number of sec is from 1, it becomes 2 now. It is incremented by 1. Next, again the user is going to see the same display message after calculations. Please enter weight of sack of rice. This time the sack of rice has a weight 50. So let's say if the user enters 50, then this 50 will be stored in the weight variable. So in the memory, what will happen? The weight variable is now having a value 50 for the third sack of rice. Now, we will move towards the third iteration and we'll see the condition. Here the condition says weight not equals to -1 in order to do the iteration. So yes, weight is 50, it's not -1. Condition is true, we will go inside the loop. So here it is 50 is your weight value and 30 is the value that is stored in total weight. 30 plus 50 becomes 80. Sorry, something's gone wrong here. 30 I just did a mistake. The total weight value was incremented to 50 in the previous iteration. So here 50 plus 50 becomes 100 now. So 100 is the updated value for total weight in the third iteration. Now what will happen? Number of sec will become 3 in this case. It was 2 and incremented by 1. Now it is 3. 2 plus 1, 3. Next, the same message will be displayed to the user. Please enter weight of sack of rice. This time what will happen? This time the user enters -1 because there are no more sack of rice present. So when it enters -1 will be saved in the weight variable and changes will be done in the memory as well. When you will check for the condition for the fourth iteration, the condition gets false because the weight value is equal to 1. The condition must only run, the loop must only run if the condition is true. But here, weight not equals to -1 gets false because weight is -1. So, when the condition becomes false, you are going to terminate the loop. When you go out of your loop, just see the instructions that are next to your end while. End while is to determine the end of the loop. Now here you have two output conditions. It is as follows. The first output condition is total weight of all sack of rice. This is what is being displayed, and next to it is a colon, and next to colon is the variable name, that is total weight. Now the value of the total weight is 100, so 100 will be printed on your screen because the variable is written outside the quotation. So remember that if the variable is written outside quotations, its value will be printed. Next is the last thing is number of sack of rice, that is your output statement. So it is number of sack of rice, and here you will put a colon. Next you will see the value for number of sack because it is again outside your quotations. We will see the value in the memory. It is 3. So 3 will be printed on the screen. So this is what is actually expected. The total weight must be 100 because the individual weight for the sack of rice were 20, 30, 50. So it is correct. And the number of sack were also 3 in our case. It can also vary, but your program will accommodate as many inputs as you want. I'm going to show you this whole thing in Visual Basic Online Compiler. I did the whole working for you. This is my VB Online Compiler. You can just go to Google and search for it, and you can find any one of these. Here I have written the same code that I just explained you. We have initialized 3 variables: total weight, number of sacks with the value 0. Next we have output statement saying enter weight for sack of rice. This is for the first sack of rice. Then we will save the value into weight variable. We will check for the condition. If weight value is not equal to -1, we will go inside. If its value is -1, it means you have no sack of rice available. So simply number of sack and total weight will be 0 in this first case. But let's suppose you have the weight for the different sack of rice. So you will go inside. Let's suppose first was 20. Then total weight and number of sack will be incremented. Again, you are going to take the input within the loop. It depends on the number of times the user wants to take the input. So it will run in iterations. After the loop, you are going to print number of sacks that are entered by the user and the total weight of all of the sack of rice. So now I'm just quickly going to run this program from this button here, or you can press F9. Okay. Something is wrong here. It lost connection. Let me just run it again. Okay, here we go. I run the program again. The compilation is successful. Let me just make the window bigger for you. Here it says enter weight for sack of rice. So let's suppose I enter 20. Then I enter, oops, something got wrong. Let me just run it again. Okay, it is 20 for the first time, 30 for the second time, and 50 for the third time, and it becomes -1 because I don't have more sack of rice. Look at your result. Number of sacks are 3 and total weight of all sack of rices are 100. This is what is being expected. I will run again in order to show you that I have no sack of rice. I'm just writing down -1 to show you that what will happen. Number of sack are 0, total weight of all sack are 0 since you have no sack of rice. Let me run it one more time. Let's suppose first one is 12, then second one is 12 again, and the third one is 10. So it must be 12, 12, 24 and 10, 34. Sorry, not 34. Yeah, sorry, 34. -1 is my fourth sack of rice. That is the termination condition. Number of sack I entered is 3. Total weight is changed now because it is 12, 12, 10. So altogether it becomes 34. So this is how the program actually works. So you can just copy the same code into your VB compiler and just see the result, whatever you want to take the input. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope everything is clear to you. If you have any question, you can comment below, and please do not forget to subscribe the channel. I will be doing the same thing, totaling and counting using Java as my programming language in the next video. Stay tuned, stay connected. Bye-bye.